Let me get a little more diagnostic, okay? Let's go inside and let me just give you some categories to think about. Through the years, I've tried to reduce this to something that we can kind of manage. Let me see if I can refine it a little bit today. The first thing that's troublesome on the inside is past sin. Past sin. We like to think that one of the blessings that God has given us is a good memory. You know, there are many times I thank God for a bad memory. Can you understand that? There's so much stuff. In fact, most of the things that I've heard in my life and seen, I would like to forget, wouldn't you? You know, we only want a good memory when somebody says nice things about us, or when we have these really nice experiences, or when we're having a test. But sins of the past are a big problem, because you can sin by remembering the past. I remember talking to a guy one time who had married a beautiful Christian girl, and before he was a Christian, he lived a really wild life, full of immorality. And it was just soon after his honeymoon, and he had married this pure, beautiful Christian girl. And I said, well, did you have a wonderful time on your honeymoon? Just kind of off-the-cuff question, making conversation. Turned out to be pretty profound. He said, no. And I said, why? He said, because I just kept thinking of all the past sexual experiences. And I just couldn't keep my mind pure. With his own wife on his own honeymoon. It's recycling the past. Young people, at this point in your life, you're filling up your memory bank. And I'll promise you this, that if you stick stuff in there that's sinful, Satan is really good at recycling that stuff. It isn't just when you did it. It comes back. Just like the images of those videos you shouldn't have seen, the images on the internet you shouldn't have seen, the movies you shouldn't have seen, the lyrics to the songs you shouldn't have heard, the images that were vividly portrayed in your mind when you were reading something you shouldn't read. It doesn't go away. It makes vivid memories, particularly if you're sitting in a theater watching people doing things they ought not to be doing, and they're 25 feet high in full color. Tough images to forget. But what happens is you cherish the memory of past sins. I can't tell you how many times I've talked with homosexuals who've come to know Christ, and I've asked them how they're doing, and inevitably, and we've had a lot of them converted at Grace Church, and you wouldn't even know this about them. Numbers of them have married and gone on with life, but inevitably they tell me the same thing. They just can't get rid of those past experiences. They keep recycling. That's why David said this. David said to God in Psalm 25:7, "Do not remember the sins of my youth." What was he doing? He was saying, God, would you please forget what I can't forget it. In Ezekiel 23, the Lord condemned Israel. And the way he did it, why, he compared Israel to a harlot, prostitute, named Oholibah. And this is what he said about the harlot that was analogous to Israel. Quote, Ezekiel 23:19. She multiplied her harlotries. In other words, she was just engaged in multiplied prostitution. How? How did she multiply her harlotry? Listen to this. By remembering the days of her youth when she played the harlot. In other words, he says Israel is like a harlot who gets old, and all she's got is a lifetime of harlotry to remember. And that's Israel. Israel is plagued by the memory of all its youth and all the harlotry. Satan will take the garbage of your past, and you don't have much of a past yet, so protect your past by protecting your present, because you're going to always live with that past in the background, potentially to be cycled. And some of you know exactly what I mean. You engaged in a sin at some point. You can actually have that sin come to mind. You can accept the temptation, move into the lust, and savor again that lustful, sinful experience by just recycling it in your mind.